Let's break down how much money I actually saved during a no-spend month.
The No Spend Month Challenge. It's exactly what it sounds like. For 30 days, you buy nothing but the bare essentials. No coffee runs, no new clothes, no eating out. On TikTok, thousands of young people are filming themselves doing it. Past generations flexed what they bought. This one has turned not buying into content. Because for many of them, it isn't really a challenge. It's just Tuesday. Take Sheeta Verma, 25. She moved to San Francisco with a list of over 200 bars and restaurants she wanted to try. 6 months later, she's been to fewer than 10. Cocktails are $20, and she can't find a friend who can afford to join her. And Sky Bowie, 21, watched her paid internship fall through just before graduating from NYU. You get to this point that, even though you did everything you were supposed to do, the system seems stacked against you. These stories, reported by the Wall Street Journal, belong to Generation Z. And the usual response goes, every generation has its struggles, this one just needs to work harder. But the numbers tell a different story. 6 in 10 Gen Z feel unable to save for the future. Only 15% expect to afford a home in the next 5 years. Roughly 40% are struggling with their mental health. And financial stress is a major driver. So how did a generation raised on the promise, study hard, get a degree, and your life will fall into place, end up here? Today, we're looking at 3 things: housing, the economy, and the happiness data. Is Gen Z truly the miserable generation in modern times? If one thing feels most out of reach for Gen Z, it's a home. A third of them believe homeownership is impossible. Not in 10 years, not in 20, in their entire lifetime. And you can see why. In the United States, home prices have risen twice as fast as incomes. For boomers, the average house costs 2 to 3 years of income. For Gen X, 3 to 4. Millennials, 4 to 5. Gen Z, 6 to 7 years. And here's the thing. This isn't bad luck. The system is practically designed to produce this outcome. In the early 1980s, entry-level homes made up 40% of everything built in America. Today, it's around 10%. They've gone nearly extinct because builders can't make money on them.
Locked into a firm selling price, but their costs are rising exponentially.
And land costs have risen 2.5 times faster than materials. So they build big and expensive, the only thing that pencils out. Meanwhile, the jobs Gen Z needs are concentrated in exactly the cities where housing is scarcest, and where existing homeowners, whose wealth depends on rising prices, vote down new construction. Young people must move where the opportunity is, then hand most of their paycheck to the generation that got there first. The result? First-time buyers are just 21% of the market. The historic norm was 40%, and the median first-time buyer is now 40 years old. 40. The starter home hasn't just vanished. The entire first rung of the wealth ladder has. No wonder 2/3 of Gen Z say they struggle just to cover housing costs. So what about jobs? On paper, things look fine. In reality, Gen Z has walked into the toughest entry-level market in decades. In the US, youth unemployment recently hit nearly 11%, more than double the national rate. Entry-level job postings have collapsed since early 2024, and in one survey, 58% of recent graduates were still hunting for full-time work, versus a quarter of earlier generations at the same stage. 2 forces are squeezing them. First, AI. Companies are automating exactly the junior roles graduates used to start in. Second, remote work. Federal Reserve researchers found that distributed teams are far less willing to hire young workers who need mentorship. The bottom rung of the career ladder is quietly being sawed off. And then there's inflation. Gen Z entered the workforce during the fastest price surge in 40 years. Yes, their wages are rising faster than any other age group, but when tuition, rent, and groceries have all exploded, a bigger slice of not enough is still not enough. And here's the cruel part. When inflation falls, prices don't come down. They just rise more slowly. The damage is permanent. With these factors, nearly 4 in 10 Gen Zers run a side hustle on top of their day job, and 38% of new graduates are considering starting their own business. They'll do their 9-to-5 work, just on their own terms. And can you blame them? Once again, it is the system that is making them behave the way they behave. Money is only half the story. The World Happiness Report, an annual study by Oxford, Gallup, and the UN, found something remarkable. In 85 of 136 countries, people under 25 are happier today than young people were 20 years ago. Globally, youth happiness is up, except in a handful of places. In the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, life evaluations for under 25s have fallen by almost a full point on a 10-point scale. The world's richest countries are producing the unhappiest young people. Why? The report points squarely at social media. Gen Z who use it heavily report dramatically lower well-being, and girls are hit roughly twice as hard as boys. But it's not just the hours, it's how it's used. In Latin America, where usage is also massive, young people mainly use social media to talk to real friends, and their happiness hasn't dropped. In the West, it's mostly algorithmic content consumed alone. Connection versus consumption. That difference seems to be everything. And the engine driving the damage is comparison. Open any feed and you see the same people, perfectly fit, effortlessly successful, always somewhere beautiful. And the timing couldn't be worse. Gen Z generation is most sensitive to social approval, when fitting in with friends matters more than almost anything. Which is the trap? 62% of Gen Z say social media does more harm than good. They know. But at that age, leaving the app doesn't mean escaping the pressure. It means being cut off from your friends. So they stay, scrolling, comparing, measuring themselves against a standard no real person meets. That's how social media eats away at a generation's mental health. Not in one dramatic moment, but by design. So, is Gen Z the most miserable generation in modern times? For perspective, consider the Lost Generation, born in the 1880s and 90s. They fought the First World War, lost everything in the Great Depression, then sent their own children off to the Second World War. By the time life gave them a break, they were in their 50s. Gen Z hasn't suffered like that. But that's a low bar. And the truth is, Gen Z faces something new. Locked out of housing, squeezed by inflation, automated out of entry-level work, and measurably less happy than young people almost anywhere else on Earth. Then again, 24 centuries ago, Socrates complained that the children of his day loved luxury, had bad manners, and disrespected their elders. Every generation looks at the next one and sees decline. Maybe Gen Z isn't broken. Maybe they're adapting to a world the rest of us don't fully understand yet.